Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. And this is my first review of 2021. And this film that we're going to be reviewing today is Haymaker, which is going to be coming on demand in theaters and digitally January 29th. Now, this film is written, directed, and also stars Nick Sasso. It also stars Nomi Ruiz. And basically, this film, I got a lot of mixed thoughts. There's things I liked about it. There's things I absolutely am just confused, quite frankly. But I will kind of start with the premise of this. So you have Nick Sasso's character, Nick, who is a retired Muay Thai fighter who is now a bouncer. Well, he gets a new gig because he's approached by Nomi Ruiz's character, Nomi, who is a transgender artist. Now, Nomi approaches him off the hey, I got a job for you. Do you want to be like my security detail, my shadow, however you want to do it, bodyguard, whatever it may be. And basically what this does is this takes Nick out of New York and takes him all around the world with Nomi as she goes on her tour. So, with that being said, he's an ex-Muay Thai fighter and she's still a really growing artist in this industry that really doesn't accept her for being transgender, and they gain a bond with each other, ultimately gaining a relationship. Yep, they mix business and pleasure. At the same time, when they did that, that also creates complications, as you know it would. But ultimately, after a lot of these things kind of diffuse and so on, this sends Nick back into wanting to be a fighter. This sends Nomi in a swirling whirlwind, till they get back to a point where they can actually gain an understanding of each other. So that's kind of the premise of the film. There's things I kind of left out here. I will say this, if you read the synopsis, I don't actually think that suffices for what's happening in this film. I also think it might be a tad bit misleading, but whatever it may be. The things I do like about this film is the cinematography. I'm a big fan of neon lights and low light shots, and they execute them to a T. And for this being an independent film, sure, it feels like an independent film at times, but the cinematography absolutely delivers a majority of the time. And this is one shot of an old school Challenger driving through New York City at night. It is just absolutely fantastic. I love that shot. Also, I will say, along with the cinematography, I thought that the music was really well done. Nomi's performances, along with the soundtrack, really complemented how the cinematography and it comes together very cohesive. Quite frankly, it almost comes off as like it's a music video or like a promo music videos of some sort. But that's absolutely the highlight of the film is the musical performances and the cinematography. Now, this film feels like two different films at a time because you do have Nomi's, story in the beginning, really focusing on the dangers of her career and really, really growing and how she kind of copes with traveling all around the world and her navigation through the business and also alongside with Nick's character. Then you have Nick when he comes in as the business person, he's really standoffish, he's really in his own, when you look at Nick's character, quite frankly, you kind of stare into his eyes and you kind of wondering something's troubling him and you're kind of wondering what it is. He's very reserved, very to himself. Then he goes fond of Nomi after Nomi kind of really much goes after him, I'll say. And they grow fond of each other, but it doesn't work, which ultimately sends him back to wanting to be a fighter. Now that's the thing. It's he was retired. Why would love be the reason for him to want to go back to fight? What really was the triggering factor that sent him back to wanting to be a fighter? So we follow his journey now as he goes back to his roots, does a lot of training, actually gets into a fight, and so on. So you have that happening at the end of the film, which I will say that the fight choreography was really well done. I was very invested with that. Also, cinematography just really shows up again on that note. And then you have Nomi's character in the beginning who is just really exploiting the dangers of a transgender in the music business, which I really appreciated. And then, quite frankly, I wanted more of that. And it didn't go as deep as I wanted it to be because it kind of went from that ultimately into a love story. And then it went from a love story to a love isn't working, I gotta go be a fighter. And then it's again with Nick character, you kind of wonder what's really troubling him? Because you can just see him in scenes where it's just something's heavily on his mind, and what is it? You know what I mean? And so all that's happening, which I would have wished that the character development would have went a little bit deeper, and it didn't. And then the ending happened, and it just was just like the end. So like I really had an issue with just how the ending was, just really felt really flat to me. I wanted more from the characters, and I thought there was a lot of potentials here with everything that was going on. But with that being said, it was an independent film, and it definitely had highlights of really big production feels with the cinematography and the musical performances, but everything else just was just kind of meant to me. Like I wasn't really invested so much into the character. I was absolutely invested into the potential where the story could have been, but it didn't go that route. So with that being said, you know, it's coming out January 29th. I'm interested to know what you all thinks about this film. It's going to be in theaters, on demand, digitally. Definitely come back in the comments, let me know after you check it out, and I'll catch you all later for more reviews. Thank you so much for watching, folks, and Happy New Year.